Hello, everyone. My name is DeShaun Williams, and I'm your host for the Founders Table podcast. Today, we have Mr. Daman on the show, and just a little bit about Mr. Daman Grewal. He is one of the founders of logisticsales.com, a free global education platform focused on teaching real-world skills in business, entrepreneurship, sales, communications, job searching, and more. It's definitely a lot, but I think it's very helpful. So, without further ado, and without taking too much more time, I would like to introduce Mr. Damon Graywall. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Deshaun. It's a nice, beautiful summer day. Can't complain. Sun is out. It's nice and hot, and I love the
Yeah.
heat. Yeah, definitely. My daughter actually just graduated grade seven, so that was nice. I got to go to her ceremony this morning, so that was that was great. And my son also is graduating from grade 12 this year as well, and so he's finished up school as well. And so yeah, it's a lot of exciting things going on. Everyone's transitioning to different schools and different levels of schooling, so that's always a little bit extra exciting for a dad.
Yeah, this it's been 10 years since I've been out of high school. So it's been 10 years since I graduated high school and just
Congrats.
recently graduated college, got my associate's degree and went back for human resource management certification. So,
Wow,
but
congrats.
it's always amazing to know
Mhm.
what the next step is, but also it's very scary to know
Mhm.
what life is going to bring at you. And speaking of scary and what life is going to bring at you, kind of want you to, if you don't mind, telling us about your business, what ultimately inspired you to become one of the founders for your business.
Well, I think it piggybacks right off what you were saying. It's scary to get out there. It's hard to figure out that pathway of how do I get this success that I'm looking for in life? I'm going spending all this time in school, and now what? What does that job search look like? What does that career path look like? What does that roadmap look like for me to get out of the paycheck to paycheck, and get into something that has a little bit of abundance in it. And so, for me too, yeah, I didn't really know who to go to, and I didn't grow up with, a father figure. My dad took off when I was 4 years old, and I didn't really know, like, who to look at for career wise. My mom was a single parent, and she was working two full-time jobs just to support us. And so we kind of going through those struggles. You're really looking for help, and you're like, hey, who can really help me in this situation? And so I always wish I had a mentor growing up, and getting into the different positions I've been into, had a lot of situations where I was working with somebody or working under somebody and just running into difficult situations, whether I wasn't being respected or people started lying, which caused me to just leave, one place after another place after another place, and eventually open up my own businesses in entrepreneurship, which definitely led to a lot of success. And, I definitely was able to apply all the lessons I had learned in the previous businesses, good lessons, as well as some of the negative ones. And then figured, okay, hey, why not create a platform where we could teach some of these skill sets, where we could help other people get successful in that journey where they do feel confused about what their next step is. And so that's what we wanted to create and do it in a way where people can feel good about what they do. So that was really important, piece for me, because that's something that I was always looking for is that ethical business, business habits that I was looking for in my employers I was at. And so I said, okay, well, hey, you know what? If we don't necessarily see this around us all the time, let's create it. And so I want to put that out there for everybody to know that we all have choices as to, which pathway we want to take in life. And sometimes we do feel like we're handcuffed, and we do feel like we're being suppressed in those situations, whether it's going to school and you feel like your teacher is the one in control, or whether you grow older and now you have supervisors or managers and you feel like, hey, these guys are holding my future. And so many people just feel so stuck, like, oh, I can't say something because I'm scared of losing my job. Or I can't say something because there's this fear that kicks in of judgment, or nobody else may even hire me, or lack. And so many people just go through life being stuck. And so we just want to give people a safe place where they can come and talk about, what they may be facing or what decision that they're having a difficult time making so we can help them along that journey. And then we're trying to give people skill sets, right? One is show them the opportunities, give them the skill sets, let them explore and venture into it themselves, do a little bit inner reflection work. So we do have like weekly episodes that we put out. There's 110 episodes in total for the curriculum that we do have. And everyone, or after the first couple, there's worksheets that go along with each episode that make you do a little bit of, introspection to see what do you like? Where do you want to go? What do you want to try? What are you comfortable trying? And so just creating small habits. And so we don't, again, want you to go all in all at once, but how do I create small habits and see what my inner intuition is telling me and where it's guiding me? And that's what we want people to explore.
That's absolutely amazing. And one, I completely understand what it's like um to not grow up with how I know exactly what it's like to grow up without a father figure. And then also for those that's listening, the only father figure I had was my grandfather. So Father's Day is always hard for me because he passed away
Mhm.
in 2010. So he didn't get to see me walk across that stage. He didn't get to see a lot of things that I wish he would have seen. However, I do believe that when the ones that didn't have a certain things in life, we ultimately have that drive to be like, okay, I want to be better than the person I didn't have, with a person that couldn't show up um,
Mhm.
for us. And also, you mentioned the like why you created it and then how it works and the 110 episodes. I'll be honest, 110 episodes, it does sound very scary. But when we're going through life, when we're going to work, when we're clocking in and out of work, we're clocking in and out of work more than 110 times a year. We're clocking in maybe almost 300 times a year. So 110 episodes really isn't that bad, but also I like the fact that you have the assessments that come with it that says, okay, what is it that you like to do? Um, and so it doesn't feel like a one size fits all type of thing. It's okay, this is what you said that you like. Now how can we build a how can you build a habit going into this to start off small and then continue to build on it. And I think, and you correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like a
Mhm.
lot of times when people try to go into a habit, instead of them starting off with this small piece of what I call cheese, they try to get the whole block and they just try to devour it right then by going head first.
Yeah. And so what we're really trying to do is just build that foundation piece for people. And we want to give them enough pieces of that puzzle that they really get a good understanding of it. And a lot of times when we're teaching, even whether it's business or sales or communication or any of the strategies that we kind of teach, it's all based on service. And so a lot of it's like repetition and ingraining good qualities into you. And so it's just like, again, receiving that little dose, 20 minutes, 25 minutes an episode, maybe some are short, like 15 minutes. But it's saying, okay, hey, let us just keep putting this into you, these habits, and enough when enough of it goes into you on a regular basis, it's going to change who you are and how you think, hopefully, and it's going to put you hopefully into that service mode as well, because a lot of that is what repeats throughout our programs to say, hey, you know what, when we realize that we have something to offer and we realize who we truly are and we eliminate a lot of the blocks that we may have. And this is really, what I've been learning for the last 20, 25 years as I've been teaching people is that the only thing that we really do is eliminate people's blocks. How do you eliminate people's blocks? You just show them that it's possible. And, there's this funny saying that I listened to yesterday. And they go, it's funny because we could put a handful of dirt into the river, but the river is going to keep flowing. And but when we put a little bit of something into a human stops,
Yeah.
right? So whether we tell a human, hey, you're not going to be successful, or we put any sort of negativity, like you're never going to be able to do it, man. And then, that something gets stuck in their head, or someone makes fun of you for maybe like the way that you speak or the way that you communicate, or you having a big idea. Like, Steve Harvey, he talks about that story about writing down on a piece of paper of what he wanted to be. And he's like, I'm going to be on TV. And the teacher instead tore it up and said, "Hey, what are you doing? Like this is a serious class here." And for him it was like a serious answer. He was like, "I'm gonna be on TV," and she called his parents in and said, "Hey, you know what? Your son is not even taking our exercises seriously. He's talking about being on TV and this and this." And then he's like, "Now I'm on TV every single day and every year I send my teacher a TV so she could watch me." Right? But again, so many people take some of this negativity and get stuck. And as a human being, we have to realize that it's all about taking these filters off and realizing that whatever we put our mind to is possible and finding out the truth of that, right? Again, there's maybe some limitations. Like, again, if you're 4 feet tall and you're trying to be an NBA basketball player, okay, maybe, there's genetics has something to do with it, right? So, but we look at everything else and say, okay, well, what is possible and what is the truth? And that's what we're really trying to get to is our truth as an individual, as a person, and say, hey, is this a real limiter for me? If someone tells me that, maybe a business, going into business is not an opportunity for me. Well, is that true? Or do we all have that capability to be able to do something? It doesn't have to be the business that someone else is telling us to do. Like, again, not everyone has to be in drop shipping or not
Right.
everyone has to be an influencer. But is there something that falls in line with you and what you want as an individual? So think about that, right? Again, when we put something like we try to put dirt into the river or a fistful of sand into a river, and if you realize that someone's put these filters on you, are you gonna flow around it, or are you gonna just stop? Because the river definitely doesn't. What does the river do? It just wipes, it keeps going. It's nature. So do we learn from nature and realize like how to stay in a flow in life? And how many people do we know and we can recognize this? And I guarantee you'll be able to find people in your life or in your spectrum of people that got stuck.
Right.
And
And
yeah.
go ahead.
Well, again, we see the potential in so many people. We see it in other people. Sometimes it's just hard to see it back this way.
And that's a great perspective because even myself, I've never thought of it like that. It's like, oh, well, I've never looked at like the river. And what's crazy is my hometown, that was right on the road, there's a bridge and it always flows through. And when it would flood, um, and it flood out, you just hear it just rushing through. You could just see
Mhm.
just anything and everything that got caught in the current that would just flow through, including my former youth pastor, his car. His car got caught in it and it flowed through
Oh,
as
wow.
well.
It came out
And
the other side somewhere.
yeah, and luckily he was sitting on the top of the roof and we was able to get to him, but it definitely um,
Wow.
I always tell them whatever was inside the car, if your windows was down, they flowed straight on out. So, but I do want to ask you a question about something that you mentioned, which was repetition. Repetition. How important is it for repetition in order to create a a habit, to create something that you're going to ultimately stick with?
Hmm. So repetition is just more like that reminder, and it's going to start creating a belief inside of you. The more you hear that something's going to be possible for you, sooner or later, you may not believe it the first time, may not believe it 10 times later, but if you hear it enough times, at some point you might just start thinking that, hey, maybe there's some truth here. Maybe you're starting developing this belief that it's possible. Or if you watch enough people go through it and you see them do it, that repetition, right? Of oh, hey, you know what? Now this is into my radar. Maybe it's youth pastors, and I'm like, hey, you know what? Here's another story about a youth pastor. Maybe this is possible for me. Maybe I like doing the mentorship thing myself, and maybe, when I hear enough of these stories, sooner or later it's going to resonate and say, yeah, hey, maybe it's possible for me too. And that's the power of repetition, is repetition can create different programs within you if it's put in there enough times. Again, anytime we make a decision, right, we're going with two battles within ourselves, right? Do we eat the healthy stuff, or do we go for the junk food? Do we go healthy or junk, right? So we're always making this decision. But if you make the right decision so many times, then that repetition is what's going to reinforce it. And then you're going to start saying, okay, well, hey, if every time I make this decision, I feel better. And so I didn't think it was going to be possible for me because I just love this so much, right? So we're always making these decisions, but whatever we start repeating, and you could, it's like the Matrix movie. It's saying you can put whatever program you want inside of you. If you tell yourself that I'm an athlete, I'm an athlete, I'm an athlete, what do you think is going to happen? You're going to go out and perform every single time. You're not going to be the guy sitting on the bench all the time. You're telling yourself, you're programming yourself for that future version of you. And so that's why repetition becomes so important, is that whatever you're going to hear, like, hey, if I say, hey, DeShaun, man, you're a good kid. Yeah, DeShaun, you're the best kid ever, right? And if I keep repeating that to you over and over and over again, guess what? Anytime you're feeling down, you're going to remember those words, and you're gonna be like, yo, man, those people believe in me. And that feels good. And so it helps us lift our spirit, lift up, so we can actually, be willing to try something, do something, and get out of that, maybe that block that we're in. And so that's what repetition hopefully does. It just shows people like, hey, we're here to love you until you learn how to love yourself. There's people here that really want to see you succeed, and we're willing to do it day in and day out. And, DeShaun, when you're talking about, hey, 8 years into podcasting, which is amazing. But I mean, imagine how many people need to hear that voice over and over and over again to lift up. And, that's props to you, for sticking it out that long. That's a hard journey to go through. But there's something inside of you, a voice that's repeating, that's saying one more episode, man. I got one more episode in me. Like, let me keep
Yeah.
going here. Yeah.
A- And just a fun fact about, since we're like on this, like the repetition, it was so funny because with me personally, I was in the hospital for those listening, I'm gonna go ahead and give y'all a trigger warning alert. I was in the hospital for a suicide attempt, and due to depression, I just remember them telling me, like, I just remember doctors and staff telling me, "Hey, you're not gonna be able to be as successful as someone that doesn't have major depressive disorder." Okay, so where we going with this? But I just remember, like, when I got out, the day that they released me, when I was finally good enough to be released. And I'm not saying, oh, it was easy to get released. No, therapy every single day, taking the medicine that they prescribe, checking in with them, making sure that I interacted with people every single day, at least 1 to 2 hours a day. It was that repetition, making sure that I wasn't trying to harm myself. But I just remember when they asked me, it's like, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do when you leave here? I'm gonna do everything y'all said I can't. And yeah, starting a podcast is, it's not, I won't say it's hard, but I won't say it's easy because anyone can start a podcast. But having the discipline to continue going. And when I first got started back in 2018, it was an episode here. The next episode may have came out 2 months later, 2 weeks later. We never knew. There was no consistency. It was no, it was not me saying, I need a plan to figure
Mhm.
out when I need to release an episode when people are going to listen the most. And then I got serious. And then I started promoting. And I constantly promoted. And I think that's, and as you said, when you get into a routine of something, you realize what's working for you. You realize, like, ooh, this repetition is really caught on. Let's keep this pattern. And as you
And
said,
can
8 years in.
Mhm.
It's not the only podcast I've hosted. I've hosted, I think, four others, but I'm 8 years in. But that repetition has always stayed the same. And it's so funny because there's only been twice that I've changed the days that it's been aired. It either airs on Tuesday or it airs on Thursdays, but most episodes of all podcasts have always aired on a Thursday,
Mhm.
somewhere between, most times during midday. So it's always great because people are listening to it on their lunch break or on their way home. They can catch the episode. So as you stated, repetition, when you really get into it, it really helps it because the mind is like, okay, why do we keep doing this? But eventually it
Mhm.
becomes, it just becomes an everyday habit, just like almost just as much as when we wake up. A lot of people wake up and the first thing they check is their phone, they check their social media. That's just how much repetition can make a difference in your life when you
Mhm.
set something and decide that you're going to stick with it. So,
So, a couple things that I really love about what you're doing is it's not only the repetition, but as you are doing repetition, you're also growing and you're stretching yourself and you're learning. And then you're learning from what you're doing to even get even better at what you're doing. So I would encourage, anyone to that's watching this podcast, take a look at some of even DeShaun's earlier, go back 4 years, 5 years. You'll be able to find it on YouTube. I did. And so I could see that transition that's taking place as well, the maturity that's coming in as well. And so again, when you compound, right? So over 8 years, what's happening is you're compounding the skill set and you're learning and you're adapting and you're learning. And so the amount of information, the amount of knowledge that you have now is way above what you started with.
right,
Right. So again, whether it's marketing, whether you learned about the scheduling, whether you learned about the discipline, whether you learned about all the different guests that have been on, imagine like all that information has been flowing into you. What a wealth of resource you might be at this point in your life where, that Deshaun that I watched was in 2021. And so the Deshaun in 2026 now, man, that guy has elevated to a whole different level, like elevation, right? So when I see that, that's what makes me proud. When I'm like, wow, somebody went through that discipline pattern and anyone can watch that journey. And people can see, okay, hey, if I just practice something for a long period of time, or if I repeat, if we talk about repetition, repetition leads to some sort of elevation all the time because you can only just get better, better, better from where you started. And so that's a great, role model for a lot of your listeners to say, hey, you know what, hang in there. That's we talk about business and we're like, business, it's not instant sometimes. Sometimes it can be, but a lot of times put in the reps. Repetition, right? Repetition gets you somewhere. And I guess I haven't followed you that long, but I'm assuming that you've achieved a lot of accolades along that last 8 year journey of yours. And there's probably things that different doors that have opened up for you in life from when you started to where you are now. And I guarantee, like these skill sets are coming in handy somewhere else beyond this podcast. I'd love to hear, where's that, where's that taking you, especially from
yeah,
2021, because I saw you in 2021. I saw one of your episodes from back then, and I'm like, okay, he's young at this age, and you
yeah.
could
I
tell.
was in 2021, so I graduated in 2016, and 2018 I was 20. So in 2021, I was uh math ain't always been my strong suit, so it was about 23 roughly, right, probably around 22, 23. And you know what, a lot of the things that happened was on the very first podcast that I ever recorded. I worked security and there was no microphones. Even I wasn't using. a microphone like I have in front of me. I wasn't using Bluetooth headphones that are noise canceling when I would record when I was out and about. So whatever was going on behind me, you heard it. But at the same time, I had a very much a sailor's mouth. And I'm not saying I don't anymore, but what I will say is I learned really fast that some people, like some listeners, don't like the excessive foul language in an episode, especially when they're coming for motivation and you have a guest on and they're cussing and everything, and it's like, oh, what do we do? Like, he said that he's here for motivation, and he's dropping the F bomb, and his guest is dropping all these other words, and then um, I got interviewed by a radio company in Charlotte, North Carolina,
Wow.
and I just remember with the episode that well with that interview that was like, hey, we would like to put your podcast on the air. We can't put your previous episodes out though because
Yeah.
the FCC. And I didn't know what the FCC stood for. I didn't know what it was about. I knew I had heard of it, but I didn't know how much they regulate. The FCC is strongly against vulgar language. So I had to quickly be like, okay, if I'm going to take this offer, I have to change the format of my show.
Hmm.
And it really, I'm not saying it changed overnight because there was episodes I had to sit there and I had to record and re-record and re-record and re-record because I would just slip up. And I had a certain day that I had to have it in by a certain time. So I would always record a week prior and I would have 3 weeks in advance just in case I missed a week, or if I just wanted an off week and I can say, let's replay the previous episode and link them back
Hmm.
to the actual podcast platform that we're using so that we get radio plays and we also get plays on Apple and whatnot. But also I learned, you know, when I when I was able to say, hey, I want guests on the show that can give meaningful advice, information, not just surface level information, and can do it without using like very explicit language. It allowed me to really go through the process and see who would work their way through. Because a lot of people would get started, it was like, hey, so I see that you say that you don't allow explicit language. That's correct. Well, I can't be a guest. Okay, so at this point, they're weeding themselves out. It's more about quality over quantity. And that's what I used to look at a lot is how many episodes could I pump out? M-
Hmm.
More or less than am I giving them such great quality? And now I'm like, okay, like the Founders Table podcast, we do 6 episodes per season. And it's because I want quality over quantity. Because
Hmm.
I can give you a season in 6 episodes, and we're talking 40, 45 to an hour max. Okay, so you have up to 6 hours worth of podcast episodes compared to me pushing out 15, 20 episodes in one season, and we don't cover anything. And then we also have this one episode where it's like, okay, we kind of go off of what we normally talk about. We're gonna be more conversational. We're gonna make this feel like a little radio show. We're gonna make this feel like a talk show today, so that you can really feel like there's a conversation back and forth because ultimately, when I came up with this one, it was I was looking at Club Shay Shay in the nightcap, and I was like, this is what I wanted to be like. I wanted to be a conversation at times, but also
Mhm.
wanting to put out that information as well. So,
Well, yeah, I definitely want to maybe talk to the audience a little bit as well and just kind of break it down and say, hey, you know what? This is exactly the roadmap. The roadmap is quantity in the beginning. Just get started. Do anything. Do it any which way you can. Don't worry about the results because that's the learning curve. So anything that we start, we just say be comfortable starting. It doesn't have to be great. It could be anything you want it to be, but just try it to see how you feel in that moment and see what it teaches you. So the universe is always giving us feedback. So we talk about this even with like customer relationships. Anytime we're selling to a customer, there's feedback. They're telling us, hey, I like this, I don't like this, I like this. Hey, don't talk to me like that, whatever it may be. But there's feedback
right,
always coming back. We just have to keep seeing, oh, well, what's that feedback? And you know what? That feedback is pivoting us. And we realize that somehow we're carving out this pathway and that pathway is leading us in different directions. Again, who would have thought, hey, I'm talking to successful business people. I'm making it onto the radio. So as you get started on this pathway, hey, all these amazing doors are going to start opening up. Whether it leads to a book, I know you wrote a book as well. And so whether it leads you down many different pathways, but it's never going to happen unless you get started at something, unless you just get out of your comfort zone just a little bit. And this is not just one scenario, but there's many people that just start in any which direction because they're like, ah, you know what? What do I got to lose? But on the other hand, what do you have to gain? What are all these different doors that are going to open up when we start trying something that we probably didn't even imagine? For me, like I never thought I was even going to be an entrepreneur. I only had like such a limited mindset which was, hey, I just want to work a nice government job and then that would be the rest of my life. But then I realized going through entrepreneurship, there was times where I could earn 10, 20 years of salary in 1 year. And I'm like, wow, hey, I just learned something. Like I thought I was going to be stuck in this career path where I had to wait for people to like literally die in front of me before I got promoted anywhere, or I would have to keep waiting and asking for that raise and just, dependent on everybody else. But I realized that, well, hey, I could flip that script and just be dependent on this guy or be dependent on the choices that I wanted to make. I didn't realize I even had choices. And so when I realized that, hey, these things are possible, and how come we weren't open to any of these opportunities? It doesn't have to be business per se, but there's opportunities even as employees that give us these high potential earnings that we could potentially earn. And so when I realized like, man, more people need to know about this, then I just pivoted. I said, okay, hey, I want to teach this to people. I want to teach this to people in the world. I'm tired of, one being held back myself in life for so many years. And once you realize like, hey, man, we could leave the hood by just stepping out of this 5 block radius. We could be in a real nice neighborhood. Like we just have to venture out, and we have to get out of this mindset where we think we're in this, getting out of the matrix in a sense, to realize that, hey, we have choices and we all have them. And some of them are difficult to make. Some of them may not be more comfortable for us. But if we're willing to start changing the way that we think about things, then our outcomes are going to change in life. As soon as our thinking pattern changes alone, the opportunities are available to start coming in. And that's what we want to teach people is that just start. It doesn't have to be, again, quality right away. We can go quantity because that's simple learning curve. Like again, even when we're shooting basketball, simple, right? We're shooting hoops. I mean, if I go after just quality, like I'm gonna wait for that right shot. I'm gonna just sit here, hold on, pause, and line up my elbow to the rim. And so again, if I'm worried too much about quality, then I'm gonna get stuffed every time, right? The shot's never gonna come off. And so when I realized, hey, if I just work on quantity first, and then slowly, the quantity is leading to quality. It's just part of the process. So we
right.
just say, hey, man, it just, give it a shot. Even if you fail one time, then do it again. What'd you learn in that situation? Right? Sometimes the first podcast doesn't go great. And then we just say, okay, well, let's adapt. And one of the changes that I saw with you, DeShaun, as well, was The energy has changed. A lot more controlled energy now from when you first
Yeah.
started. The energy was pumped. Like I gotta get
Yeah.
this out. I gotta get this out. And now it's more controlled energy. And so we see like, hey, transformation's happening. And so again, do we want, message to the audience? Do we want to transform as individuals? Because the energy inside you is going to transform. You're gonna be, again, if you're willing to try something different, it may look a little bit shaky in the beginning, but then you're gonna transform into a new being. And so that's the thing. If we change, then our everything in our life is gonna change. Things do not stay the same if we change, right? And so the only way that we're sure of things staying the same is if we don't change. And so again, when we start adopting to some of these mindset shifts, we're going to realize that, hey, if I start changing, my outcomes are going to change. Let me keep changing all sorts of things in my life because the more I play with this puzzle, like I can make a castle here. I don't want to be stuck down here where there's nothing happening. So I could take some of these steps and we don't know where they're going to lead to, and that's okay. We don't know that we're going to make it on the radio. We don't know that we're going to write a book. We don't know that we may hit stardom one day. But all we know is that as long as we're in the game, we have a chance and we have an opportunity. And that's better than having no opportunity at all. And so
Right.
these are the things that we want to get through with people. Like, hey, man, let's live. One thing that's guaranteed in life is we're all going to die one day, but not many people get to live. And so that's where we want to take people and just say, hey, so, if it's business or you're looking for that career change or you're looking for opportunities of how do I get growth in my career that I'm already at? How do I find that next job? How do I even think of a business to even start? So those are things that we kind of teach through logistics sales. And that's what we want people to just open up to and just say, hey, just take a look. What's the harm? There's no harm in just looking, right? And if something interests you, you could try it or just do the worksheets and just eventually be like, hey, man, if I, even if I do these worksheets, I'm learning something. And one day I'm going to be able to apply what I'm learning because, yeah, I'm building all this like toolkit within myself. And so same, like when I see you, Deshaun, like I know there's so much knowledge that's been pumped into you from different business leaders that you've been speaking to that one day this knowledge is going to be used, like this toolkit is coming out, whether it's for the radio station or whether it's for any other ventures that are going to happen in your life, and you're still young, very young. So imagine the doors that are going to keep opening for you as you go through this journey. And that's one thing we want to encourage everybody and say it's possible for anyone to just again shift our mindset once in life and realize like there's so many opportunities that exist. And same thing, like again, even whether it's utilizing the skill sets that we learn in school. So we don't need an amazing education to venture off in some of these opportunities, but we just have to have this internal shift and start believing that there's something possible for us. Slowly, if you start watching, episodes like this, or again, anything that's going to help build your confidence, not take it away, but again, what we're trying to do is build little small habits that show you that things are going to be possible. And I think one of the first exercises that we do is we say, take a look just on Google Maps and see what's around your area. You're going to start realizing how many people are actually starting home-based businesses. Like in the US, 35 million small to medium-sized businesses that exist. And some of these are in your own neighborhood. It's people that have accounting from home. They're doing graphic design from home. They're doing, wedding planning or wedding events or some of the smallest things. Sometimes like I see fitness, people having like fitness companies at their home, right? Like all sorts of different companies that people have. And as soon as you zoom out on Google Maps, you're going to start seeing these names pop up on people's homes. You're like, hey, I didn't know that guy was a business owner. Well, hey, let's start learning about what's in our area, and even beyond our area. And let's realize that, hey, we could probably reach out to some of these people and start learning from them as well. And same way, like, with me and Deshaun connecting here, I'm up in Canada, right? Hey, we got a border between us, but hey, we're still talking. I'm on the West Coast, you're on the East Coast, right? So we're still making it happen. You could talk to people from around the world. I mean, anything's possible. But it's not until we put ourselves out there, or we can knock on our neighbor's door and just say, hey, you know what? Notice you have a really nice vehicle in your driveway. I'm just trying to find out. I'm new to business and I just want to learn how you made that possible. And you realize like how many people are willing to help if you just position yourself in the right way. And those are the type of conversations we want to see happen. But hopefully in a loving and nurturing way, where we all know that we could all follow, the right pathways to be able to get something. And that's what we really want to teach people is again, ethical business, behaviors or skill sets that you can incorporate into yourself to increase your value as a human being. Like we say in sales, like customer service is sales. So if you've ever helped somebody, get a glass of water, right? You help your parents, hey, can I have a glass of water? Yes, you can. Yeah, here you go. That's customer service. That is sales, right? That's there's nothing that's abstract about these type of opportunities. The only thing that's abstract is about how we get paid for it. So what jobs are you doing currently? Right? These are the questions we want to ask you is what are you doing currently? And maybe that same skill set can be applied in a different environment and earn you a lot more money. It's like the water bottle, right? If you go to a water bottle and you buy it from the dollar store, you'll get it for $1. You go buy it at the vending machine, that same water bottle is going to cost you like 250 or more, right? And you take that same water bottle, you go buy it at the airport, it's going to cost you like $5. But it's the same water bottle, right? So just like you're the same person, but put into a different environment. Now your value goes up for the same thing, and you're not even doing anything different. You just change your environment, but now you're worth more, right? Because someone's valuing it a little bit better. There's someone, and that's the thing we want people to realize is that you have value. You as a human being, as a asset, no company can operate without you as a human in there. If there's no humans in that company, the company doesn't exist. Unless you're 100% digital and it's AI run, who knows? But you know, the same thing is about there's so much value in human capital that unless you look in the mirror and say, "Hey, I'm valuable," right? I'm worth something. Uh, that decision alone is going to probably increase your income. Just that one decision alone. Keep telling yourself, "Hey, I'm worth something. I'm going to do something in my life. I'm gonna go figure out who can value me the most," right? And then again, if we the learn more skills we learn, if we're learning communication skills, or if we're learning our customer service skills, and we're knowing how to leverage it, then you're gonna be even more valuable. And so, again, when you watch episodes that are gonna educate you and apply to the stuff that you're doing, then you're gonna realize like, yeah, hey man, I got something to offer here, right? Hey, maybe I could write a good email. Maybe I can take a good photo. This is all sales, right? So again, whatever your strong suit may be able to get you more value in the marketplace. And that's the thing we want to teach people. Like, who can you help, right? When we say we do it out of service, hey, maybe you could get DeShaun another radio gig in another state. That's worth money. I'm sure he'll pay you, right? If you structure it the right way and say, DeShaun, man, I want to get you on some more radio stations. You already got one. Let's multiply that. Hey, how much are you earning? Okay, hey, how about if I get 25% of that? Is it going to cost you any more? No, because you're still doing the same work. We'll just put it on a couple more radio stations. So, I'm sure someone approached you with that proposition. What would you say, DeShaun?
I would definitely be like, let's sit down and talk. Let's see how like so
It's a win. Yeah, it's a win-win situation. So
yeah.
we try to teach people how do we help each other, right? Not hold each other back. Not say I'm gonna go open up my own podcast, I'm gonna get my own radio station. But hey, man, can we help? Yeah, DeShaun, man, you're doing great. You've already got 8 years of experience. Hey, it's gonna take me a long time to get there. But hey, what I can do is I can look up radio stations. Can I do that? Yeah, maybe I could put it into Chat GPT and just run all the radio stations and send out a quick email. Hey, you know what? What's so valuable? So what questions I would ask you is, hey, DeShaun, what made that other radio station put your podcast on there? Was there something specific that they liked? Okay, let me put that into the email here. Or let me just talk into Chat GPT. Hey, Chat GPT, DeShaun's got this podcast and he was on this show on this radio station where he was talking about these type of episodes. Can you help me formulate an email that I can send to other radio stations that can really highlight his podcast and what was attractive to that radio station that other radio stations may also want to apply into their network? And so as soon as I put that into Chat GPT, it's going to spit out this amazing email that's going to be very specific about your value add with your podcast to these other companies. And it's also gonna, I would be like, hey, can you make sure you reference like this radio station, the one that we're currently doing to these other, companies so that I could build more credibility. So we're building that context in that email, send it out to a bunch of other radio stations, and who knows, right? Maybe you put together a marketing package. Hey, this is how much I'm getting paid here. If we get this much per, additional radio station, I can share this much with you. Boom. Win-win strategy. Off to the races. Not changing much about your business, but you're happy to help somebody that's willing to take on that headache to bring you more income. And it's a win-win, man. Like you could be, making 10 times more, 100 times more, 1,000 times more, depending on how many stations you can get onto. But just what? Email, right? Blast it out.
Right.
Well, and once you get the contacts for all those radio stations, which you're gonna have to do a little bit of research for, but once you have that, hey, who else can you market? Right? Now I can market more companies, right? Get more people on those shows. Hey, hold on. Now I'm a marketing company. Hold on. Now I'm making millions of dollars a year for being a marketer. But again, you could go on and on about creating whatever scenario, but I guarantee you that if you try it, it'll 100%, at least you'll get some feedback and then you can tweak it, get some more feedback, and I guarantee at some point you'll get success out of it.
Yes, sir. And I just want to say everything that you've shared on this episode has been amazing. And of course, we're coming to the end of the episode. And I don't know. You may I'm somewhat doubting. I don't know if you can top all the information that you've given out so far, all the tips that you've given out. But I'll still ask this question that I always ask every guest. As we come to a close today, what is one piece of advice that you would like to leave the listeners with?
One piece of advice that I would want to give everybody is even if you've stuck around this long for this episode and you even made it this far, there's something happening inside of you. There's something that your inner voice is telling you. And the one thing I would want you to do is explore that voice. Ask it, what are you saying to me? Is there something you want me to do? And listen to that voice. Please listen to it. It's connected to something greater than who we are. And if you listen to that voice, it's going to take you to places that you never thought were even possible. But again, it's that obedience. If we get obedient to listen to our inner voice, understand that there's a guiding system that's inside there that really loves you and really wants the best for you. Make sure it's the right voice, right? The one that tells you to eat the healthy food first, right? Not the other one. But, question it to make sure that it's going to lead you into a positive direction and try it and see, hey, what are you saying to me? Right? Because, like we are our best friends. DeShaun, I can guarantee you, when you went through your hard times, you realize like, hey man, I gotta do this, right? There's nobody that's coming to save me, so I'm gonna have to get strong. I'm gonna have to take anything that's happening in life and make that change. And the only person that's gonna be able to do that is this person right here. Sure, we're all here to help. There's a lot of, people that love us, right? My grandparents were huge in my life. They were a huge source of inspiration. I could never want to let them down, right? They were just so loving that I just could not do anything wrong, in front of their eyes. And so we have people like that in our lives that, they do support us, they do love us, and we realize, what? We have those supports. Sometimes it's hard for us to see it, and we all get in a place where it gets dark. But, understand, at least, come to Logistics Sales if you want. Come hang out and watch some more podcasts with DeShaun. But again, we're here for you. There's a lot of people in life that are going to be here for you and that want you to explore that true version of who you really are. And so listen to that little voice that's happening inside here. Sometimes it's very hard to hear because, again, the dirt is coming on top of us. But you are the river and you will flow. And that river always has a destination to go to, and it's vast. So don't limit your life. Remember, you are that river and you're going to flow.
That is, well, I was wrong. You definitely topped it. However, and I love everything that you shared, and I love that piece of advice that you shared as well. And I just want to take the time to let everyone know that you know the information that Damon shared with us It will be in the show notes and along with the website. So that if y'all are interested, if you made it this far, you're interested, you can go over to the website and check it out. And with that being said, it's been another episode of the Founders Table. I'm your host, DeShaun Williams, and we will see you again next week. Thank you so much, and I hope y'all have a great week as well.
Right. Thanks, everybody, and wishing you best of luck, Deshaun, in the future.
See?